Hello and welcome to Control-Delete Tutorials. My name is Jason, and this should conclude the series for this. I thought it might be 3, but I think we can get this done in 4. So this video is going to cover making the leafy tree and setting up all of the textures that we created in the last video, and setting up using Object Paint and setting up our different branches and stuff like that. If it does end up going a little long, maybe I will end up splitting this up into 2 videos, but we should be good. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is we want to set up our small assets that are going to be object painted. Okay, so in order to do this, we'll create a plane that's going to be for our leaves. Okay, so I'm just going to go into the top view, and I'll just drag out a plane. I want it to be square, so I'll just say this is going to be 5 by 5. And I don't need all these length and width segments. The less I have, actually, the better. So we'll just do 1 by 1. And we'll create our materials for this. So if you are using a newer version of 3ds Max, I'm using 2016. I know 2017 and 2018 are out. Everything kind of works the same. The icons do look a little bit different. I do understand that. So I apologize for using a little bit of an older version, but I really like the way this one looks. I'm not a big fan of the updates, so I kind of stick with this one. Okay, so we'll drag out a new standard and double click that. And we'll just call this leaf red. And we'll put a new bitmap in here. And we're going to go to our folder here. Leafy tree, references, and leaf red. Okay, so we're going to use 2 of these. The first one is going to be set up. So if I click it, I do not want to use real world size, and I want to make sure my tiling is set to 1 and 1. That is a problem with some of the newer version that I don't like, where it does the real world size, and when you uncheck it, it sets everything to 0.1, and that drives me nuts. So another reason I kind of like working with 2016. Okay, so this one, we're going to be using our RGB intensity, and our alpha source for this is going to be none. It's going to be opaque because this is going to go into our diffuse map. I'm going to hold shift and duplicate this. And this one is going to use mono channel output alpha and alpha source image alpha. I plug that into our opacity. And what we should see is, let me change the if I right click on this, I can bring up the shape. What do they put that under now? There we go. Preview object type box. And we should be able to see our leaf there. And you know what? Let's double click back on our leaf red. We'll make this 2-sided. So that way the leaves show on each side. That sets up our one leaf. So I'm just going to minimize this just to save some space here. I'll select everything. I'm going to hold shift and move these down. We'll rename this one leaf orange. Make sure we spell everything right there. Okay, so we're just going to swap these out. We don't have to change the settings. All we have to do is go to the bitmap source, and we'll say orange. And we'll see that change to orange. I don't even have to change the red one because they're actually using the same alpha. So if you want to, by all means do that, but we don't need to. Okay, take this again. Whoa, don't do that. Select only these guys. Shift and move. And you guessed it, we're going to do leaf yellow. Leaf yellow. Same idea. Double click here. Select our bitmap source. yellow. And we get a yellow leaf. Very good. So there we go. We got our 3 leaves. Okay, just kind of move this out of the way for a second. And what I'm going to do is just drag from this little node onto our object. And I'm going to double click leaf red. I just want to make sure I turn on this show shaded material in viewport. That'll allow me to see it. Now you can see this, the leaf pops up a bunch of times. This is another annoying thing that they've added to 3ds Max, which drives me nuts. Real world map size, we're going to turn that off. Okay, so if you see that, we want to see 1 leaf per plane. Okay, so another thing, I want all of my leaves to be in the upright position. So I'm just going to move, this to 0, 0, 0. I can do that really quickly by right-clicking on the spinners here, which sets them to 0. I'm going to right-click, convert to editable poly. And I'm going to select element mode. I could select polygon mode, I guess, as well, since it's 1 poly. And I'm going to rotate this in element mode 90 degrees. We want to make sure our angle snap toggle is turned on. That'll allow us to snap to 5-degree increments. And we'll just rotate until we see the number at the bottom of X. See, we can see that number changing. We want to make sure that says 90. And I want to move it up. So if I go into the front view, I want to move it up so that it's above this black line. Now, it doesn't have to be all the way above, but I want to make sure it's pretty close. And the other thing I like to do is I want to make sure the center of the stem, I'm going to hit F2 just to turn off the shading here for a second. I want to move that point right here. So I'm locked in one direction here. Because essentially that's where the leaf comes from, right there. Now if I turn off element mode, we'll see that my pivot point now for this object is right here. That's handy. We'll go ahead and rename this leaf. I'll do underscore red underscore 001 because I'm going to have a lot of these. So that's my first leaf. I'm going to hold shift, duplicate this as a copy. Let's make that 1, but this one's going to be orange. And I'll hit enter there. Okay, with that selected, I'll go back to my materials. I can either click on the icon here, if I can't find it, hit M. That'll bring it up also. Okay, we're going to drag from this node onto our leaf. Again, we'll double click here and make sure we show shaded material in viewport. I don't know why that jumped, but it did. And that will allow me to see the orange there. That one's already got the right pivot point, so I don't have to worry about that. Hold shift. I'll move this one over. Number 1 again. Yellow. I'll hit OK. Go back to my materials. Double click on that material, show shaded, drag from my node onto my object. Okay, so we got 3 leaves. The reason I want these standing upward in my viewport is so when I object paint them, they will paint. If I go to object paint here, they're going to paint based off of the Z alignment. So that'll make more sense once we actually do it. All right, so we got those 3. We can see them over here in our scene editor, our list, scene explorer, sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to move these guys out of the way for now. Kind of done with those. Weird thing, it didn't update. All right, so now I'm going to take my tree, my small tree branch. So it's going to use almost essentially the same setup here. So I can select all of this, hold shift and move. And this one I'm going to call branch. I'll just call this small branch. Small. I've used capital letters before. Let's be consistent, I guess. Small branch. Okay. The image we use is going to be our, where'd it go? There we go, tree branch. And this alpha won't work anymore. So we'll do the same thing, tree branch. And there we go. So we have our tree branch. Okay, so I made these all 5 by 5 by 5. Now what's cool is I can just use the same one here. Shift and move. We'll call that tree branch. Let's call that small tree branch, or small branch would have worked, I suppose. And I'm going to apply the texture to this, and I'll just change the size because my orientation for this is currently correct. So I don't want to mess that up. Let's make sure we can see it in the viewport. And just drag from this node, oh, there, try it again, over to here. And now all I've got to do is, I'll just change the size of this. So I'll scale this out a little bit this way. Scale it about 500%. Okay, if I watch the numbers down at the bottom, the X was pretty close to 500. Now I'll just take the vertices here. I don't want to change anything of the bottom of this. And I'll just make it to where it looks proportional. So that looks pretty good. I'll stick with that. So that is my small tree branch, my first one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same one and I'm going to object paint these leaves onto this branch multiple times. So this will be my first one. Maybe I'll call this branch. Let's change the name here because it's tree branch. I know that. I'm making a tree. Small branch A 001. I'll make 3 of these. And I'll, kind of change up the size of them a little bit. Maybe tree branch B here's a little bit longer and a little skinnier. We'll make it just a little weirder. It's not really changing it all that much, but it's different. And we'll change this to B1. Okay, so that's that one. And then take this one again. And what I'm going to do with this one, what I should also do is make sure this material, I want to make sure that's two-sided. Okay, good. Let's see, two-sided. That way we see it on the other side. Now we don't see it in the viewport because the viewport is only showing one side, but it will, if I render, it will render both sides, which is important. Okay, so for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the vertices on this side and move them over here. I'll take the vertices on this side and I'll move them over here. That's weird. I didn't expect it to make it look like it flipped that direction. I just thought it would mirror it. And we'll just make it a little bit taller. Okay, so this, what we're going to do is we're going to paint these leaves on here. So we're going to use object paint to do that. So we're going to make our small branches out of these. I really don't like how I can't see this one on this side. That's really annoying. All right, so before I do anything else, I want to save what I have going on so far. So we'll just save this so far. What are we saving this under? Leafy. I'm going crazy here. Oh, you know what? It's auto-saving elsewhere. That's my mistake. I have all my stuff backed up on a new drive, so don't mind me being stupid. Okay. So we'll just call this tree setup. It's always important to save and save often. We never use the save button, always the plus button. That'll add a little O1 to our naming there, and the next time I go to save as, and I hit the plus button, I get a little 02. I get a brand new file. All right, so we're going to paint these 3 leaves onto these. Something else we can do is maybe I have this one branch that's this way, but since this one is a little bit different, the one that I have here, what I can also do is make one. Maybe I just have one of them that's this way. If I hold shift and I rotate this 90 degrees while I'm in polygon mode, it gives me a more 3-dimensional looking branch that I can also paint on. You know what? I might actually do that with all of them, just because I like the way that looks. And I don't have to go 90. I could have one where it's like 60 degrees. So that'll make them somewhat different. I can also take the vertices on this and bring this down. This is really going to change up how my branches kind of look together. And I'll leave this one kind of basic. It's kind of flat. So I've got 2 that have some dimension to it, and then 2 that don't. All right, so here's how we end up painting these. And I may end up having to do this in another video where I'm doing the tree part, because this will be just my stem setup. So we'll kind of do that and have a final video. All right, so to object paint these, I'm going to go to my list here, and I have a couple videos on object painting. And I'm going to add selected. So I'm going to select these and say add selected. It adds them in. I can just close that. I want to make sure that my drop down here is paint with objects and list. You'll know that you have the right one because these will be little white icons. So I'm going to paint with these. And I want to paint on selected objects. That way I'm not painting on other things. So I'll just make sure I select the one here. And another thing I can do is I can alter up some of these settings. So I'm going to paint on one first. And I'm going to move these away from each other just for the next step. All right, these are flipped on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and just rotate this around 180 degrees just so I can see all these at the same time. I'll move that away. All right, so I'm going to select this one, so that's what I paint on. I'm going to go into paint mode, and when I paint, I'm going to drag from pretty much the bottom of the branch here and follow that up. Now, these are going to be on here and they don't look super exciting. So there's a bunch of settings we can change. I'm going to hit X here in a moment. But one thing that I can change is my spacing. So I can add more leaves if I want. I can also change each section here. This is my alignment. This is my scatter, my movement along painting here. So if I want to change it off from here, I can adjust it slightly. I don't like to mess around with the U direction so much. The V changes it along the stroke line. So I could nudge that around a little. And then the W one moves it in and out. I don't want to do that because I don't want any of them kind of floating off in space. The next section here is for rotation. So I want to have them rotate around the branch where I'm painting. So I'll set this to random X. The Y direction, I'm actually going to have them kind of pointing the direction that I'm going. So I'll probably set this to like -50. And then the Z direction, I'll have that be random as well. So as I paint them, it's gonna give some 3-dimension to this. And I can kind of change my spacing again. So I can add more on there. It's already starting to look pretty cool. This section is for scale. Now I like to use ramp because then I can go from a low number as I'm painting. So let's say I set this to 120, and then to a smaller number, let's say 70. So as I paint them, my leaves will get smaller as they get towards the end of the branch. I can also come in here and kind of add in a couple that are off of these little ones. And I only have to paint these on one side. And once I have my settings the way I want, I can just continue to go ahead and start painting these. Now I like to paint off of the smaller branches first. And then I'll do, and these don't have to be perfect on here, but you can see how this is already starting to make a really nice looking tree branch. And if it gets a little difficult to see some of these, it's not going to really matter too much. Now, something I forgot to do, and now I feel really dumb about this because I've already done this and made all these really nice ones. You'll notice I only got one color. That's a problem. So I'm going to hit X, which will get rid of everything I did. What I forgot to tell you to do is drop this down to paint all randomly. That's pretty important. So now you'll see as I paint, it will pick different leaf colors. So let me start down here. All right, so now we get the different colors. Now it's really starting to look more like autumn. Or fall, if you want to call it fall. I just kind of Bob Ross these things up, if you know who Bob Ross is. Just kind of paint them in there anywhere. Now it really depends on how full you want your tree to be. Okay, so that's pretty good. Let me hit F4 here, and we can kind of see what we got there. Pretty nice. So I'm going to hit the checkbox, which will finish up that one. And it'll make sense in a minute why I'm leaving a big space here for these. All right, so now we're going to do the same idea. I'm going to turn F4 back on just so I can see what I'm actually painting. I'm going to select this. I'll hit Z, which will focus my viewport camera here on this. I'll go to paint. It's already set up to paint on selected objects. And I'm just going to kind of go about this pretty quickly. Make sure we're painting on the right ones here. And it's okay if they're not directly on here. That's really not going to matter all that much. We just want to make them believable, pretty close. And I don't have to worry about doing the other side because remember, I have these rotating 360 degrees. All right, last one. Whoops. Got to have the object selected to paint on it. And you know what? On this last one, I'm going to make my scale get a little bigger. Just to change things up a little bit. Since this one's kind of going off multiple directions. All right, we're pretty well set. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm basically done with these leaves. I'm going to hide those. I'm going to save before I do anything else. So we'll do a save as and our little plus button. And we're going to create selection sets. That's going to make it really easy to put these all together. So I'll select everything here, do a big window selection over that. And I'm going to type in small branch A, and I hit enter. So what selection set is it allows me to easily select things that I've selected before. So I'll do my next one. Small branch B, and enter. And small branch C. And if we look in our list, now I can easily select. All right, so now we're going to select our small branch A001. Not all the leaves. This is an editable poly. And I'm going to attach by list. And that'll bring up my list. Problem is how do I know what leaves belong to this? Well, I made a selection set. You'll see the word selection set. And they made these really terrible tiny little icons that allow me to bring up the selection set. I'll just drop down, select A. So out of my list here, it's only going to select the ones that are in group A, and I'll attach. And I want to match material IDs to the material. And I'll hit OK. Okay. So now all of those leaves that were there are all part of this branch. Okay, and then we have to do the same thing to this one. So we have our small branch B. We'll do the same thing, attach list. And we're going to go to our little button over here. Small branch B, we'll hit attach. Match material IDs. Yes, we want to do that. And that one's all together. I'll select. Ooh, we didn't rename that one. How dare us. What were you guys thinking? Let me not do that. There we go. That could have been a disaster. All right, attach list. I don't know why this keeps defaulting to off screen. That's annoying. Small branch C, which is basically all the rest of the leaves, and attach, and OK. So now we have 3 branches. These 3 branches are now going to go into our object list for the next part. So I'm going to get rid of my leaves out of here because I don't want to paint those on. So I'll just select one, remove, remove, remove. I'll select these 3 and add selected. This is going to set us up for the next video. So I'm going to remove those, so in the next video I can show you how to do that again, just in case you skipped this end part and you want to see how to do that. So again, thanks for watching, and the next video I promise will be the last part of the video where we are going to create our tree branch and we are going to attach everything to it. So I'll see you in the next video. Again, really appreciate when you guys subscribe to the videos and leave me comments. That's more important than anything. So again, thanks for watching.